right, so this is question 10 of the test for review. And so if we remember, the rule is with the sample size, it has to be at least 30 in order for us to run a test without the population being normally distributed. So this first question is asking if the population is to be normally distributed, and the answer is, since our n is 35, the answer is no, because it's at least 30. So now we're going to compute the test statistic. We're talking about a mean here. And so mean translates to t-stat in StatCrunch. And the data that we're given is just one set of data. So we go to one sample with summary. And so the sample mean is x bar, is sample mean. So if you don't remember that, that's something to remember. The standard deviation is the 9.5. The sample size we got up here with 35. And our hypothesis test, it already gives it to us. So we want equals 37 and does not equal 37. So the test statistic is the same thing as t-stat. And then it's asking us to do a graph. I'm going to make this bigger so we can see better. So what we're going to look for with this graph is what our alternative hypothesis symbol is. So our alternative hypothesis symbol is a not equal to sign. So that means that it can be above or below. And so we need to select one that is shaded in both above and below. So this is the only one that's shaded in above and below. So that's what we're going to choose. If it was a less than sign, then it would be this one right here. And if it was a greater than sign, it'd be this one right here. This will never be the option, the middle portion. Interpret the p-value. We're talking about the probability of observing a sample statistic as extreme or more extreme than, assuming that this one is true, and then we're looking at our p-value, which is this number right here. It's between that one. I didn't explain that very well. So this p-value is supposed to be a reflection of our population. And so we're saying, and it's the probability of our kind of how extreme it is, I guess. That's kind of a hard one to explain. So if you have more questions on this, if this doesn't make sense, please let me know and I can explain it better, but we'll just continue on. Okay, so now we're talking about level of significance and whether to reject the null hypothesis and why. So that goes back to, if the p-value is greater than alpha, you do not reject the null, and if the p-value is less than alpha, you reject. So I'll write it out. I believe it's this one. So our p-value is given to us right here. So it's 0.0113, and our alpha is given to us right here, 0.01, and this one, because we add zeros, so this one would be greater than. And so, like I said, if the p-value is greater than alpha, then you do not reject the null. So greater, fail to reject. Now we're going to conduct a confidence interval. A trick in StatCrunch is you can since we already put in all of our data, we can click on Options and Edit, so we don't have to re-enter in and scroll up here and do all that. And we're just going to click on confidence interval, and we're talking about a 99%, so we'll change that. This is what we did in the last test, and then the lower and upper bounds. We just type in. So now we look at what we're testing, this value of 37. 37 is in between the upper and lower bounds. And so what this 99% confidence interval says is, it says that we're 99% confident that, and what we're testing is the mean, that the mean is within these upper and lower limits. That's what they mean. And so if the mean happens to be, let's say it's 36.4, that is below the limit, and so that will be in the 1%, the opposite side. So we're 99% confident. And that's also, since we're so confident that 99% is a big number, it's close to 100, this is a pretty big range. And the smaller your confidence interval goes, the smaller the range goes. So the value 37, what we're talking about, lies within the confidence interval. We fail to reject the null hypothesis, which coincides with what we said right here with our p-value. Okay, so that's how we do that. Please let me know if you have any questions at all in any part of the review.